Nowadays, many people are using Buddhism as a type of self-help or therapy. I think that this is problematic, although one can derive a great deal of benefit from using the Buddhist teachings in this way. It can give us a great deal of insight into our behavior and our way of thinking. But what it does is it eliminates the role of the spiritual teacher. And the spiritual teacher is very, very important in the Buddhist path. Of course, one needs to have a qualified Buddhist teacher, and this is quite rare to have someone who is well qualified and requires a great deal of examination beforehand, before accepting a spiritual teacher. But nevertheless, with a spiritual teacher, this is somebody who has a great deal of excellent qualities, somebody who has developed themselves, worked on themselves, who has achieved some emotional balance, who has achieved calm and understanding and kindness and so on. And with a spiritual teacher, one needs to develop this confidence and trust that the teacher has these qualities and respect for these qualities. And also the teacher is very kind in teaching us, guiding us, helping us, and so on. And we develop a sense of appreciation and gratitude for that. Now, when we develop these qualities of respect for good qualities and appreciation for kindness and so on, this allows us to then transfer that to ourselves. Because if we don't have any respect in ourselves, in our own good qualities, and appreciate the kindness of ourselves in the past, that we learned how to read so that we can read books, we can understand things, we learned how to communicate, we learned how to deal with people and so on. It'll be very, very hard to develop. And so by working on and developing these good qualities of mind and emotion with the teacher, then it allows us to develop it with ourselves, and then in terms of extending that, we can extend it from the teacher, from ourselves, to all others around us. So then we have a very positive attitude that we see good qualities, we acknowledge good qualities, we respect them, which is also a basis for ethical behavior, that we respect ourselves and we appreciate the kindness of others. Also gives us this feeling that we're not alone. The dangers of treating Buddhism just as a self-help method are that you don't have any control, so you don't have any feedback as to how you're actually applying these teachings. And also, people tend to choose and pick from the teachings those points that they like and ignore those points that they don't like. And so they already have an agenda beforehand of what they would like to achieve and so on. Whereas Buddhism, when you're working with a teacher, you're working with the teachings, that it tries to take you outside of your comfort zone so that you work on the difficult points that you have. In the mind training text, one of the pieces of advice is to work on your most serious disturbing emotion first. So really tackle these sort of things and deal with them. So if you're doing just self-help by yourself, you might treat yourself a little bit like a baby and not really go deeply enough into the areas where you really need the most help.